Good morning, everyone, and especially to our graduates. You made it. So I had this entire speech plan, but now I think I'm just going to say what Jesse said. It was pretty good. I don't know what you're running for, but I think I'd vote for you. When Mark McKee asked me to speak at Commencement, of course, I was excited. I was honored. And then I hung up the phone and I realized if they're asking me back to speak, I must really be getting old. And then I came to campus last Wednesday and it was confirmed. Apparently, I graduated 25 years ago. I don't know how it happened, but apparently it did. During my visit here at Viewpoint, I had the privilege of meeting some members of our graduating class. I wasn't sure what to expect. This generation, your generation, has been bombarded by so much technology and information on the internet and social media platforms. You went through a global pandemic and went through severe isolation in the middle of your high school careers. How was this going to impact our ability to connect with one another, to relate, to communicate, to understand each other? I was blown away. First, let's start with the intellectual level of conversation. We started talking about the pros and cons of AI, and I had to straight up pretend like I understood what Audrey Kim was saying when she was talking about protein folding. Audrey, I Googled it, I still don't get it, so maybe you can explain it to me a little later. And then there were the insightful, direct questions, like when Kimia Afshari asked me, how come the sanctions against Iran would prohibit us from sending goods that people need, like athletic equipment for the female athletes in the country? Great question. And then the honesty in the communication. When Jesse Hutchinson asked me, so can you tell me when and what period of your life finally changed where you let go of the need for perfection and you learned to relax and enjoy life? The answer, the aloha of Kauai. As Annabelle and Kimia walked me through the campus, most of which did not exist when I was here, by the way, I realized so much life has happened since I was here. How was I supposed to put all of those experiences into a relatable, hopefully non-boring speech that is 10 minutes long? I did what anyone nowadays would do. I turned to AI. I went to ChatGPT and asked for a 10-minute inspirational commencement speech. What I got back was, it fit within the 10-minute period, kind of some inspirational messages in there, but it had no heart, it had no soul, it had no element of the human experience in it. Nowhere in that speech did it talk about any of my Viewpoint memories, about how when I started here as a freshman, we did not have a girls' soccer program, so I had to play on the varsity boys team, which, by the way, I started on. Woo woo. And years later, when this field was built, my cousin, Ida Shamarati, a Viewpoint alumni sitting there, scored the first goal on this field. Woo! And fast forward to today, with the guidance of Coach Travis, this women's team is on fire, undefeated, I hear, with one of your own, Madison, going to Duke to play soccer. I don't care how much information AI has access to, there is no way it could ever describe how that warms my heart. Or what about how I stubbornly decided I need to take AP Calculus and Physics because I need to take AP everything? Newsflash, I am not good at either. Ask my poor uncle. This man has been trying to teach me math my entire life and it still hasn't worked. So my teachers, Mr. Ketke and Mr. Azar, gently suggested that maybe I should switch to the regular class. And while that was incredibly hard for me to accept at the time, they taught me an important lesson. It takes strength to accept and admit your weaknesses. I certainly didn't know that it was Miss Doris Warren, my speech and debate teacher, who taught me how to comfortably speak in public. Although she did give me an A- because I didn't make enough eye contact with the back row. So back row, I see you. I mean, as much as my eyesight these days allows me to see you, but I see you, okay? And it certainly didn't talk about my first real trip, the voyage of discovery to the East Coast, where Allison Steelberg-Corno and I decided we were Thelma and Louise. We put on big sunglasses and scarves and held hands, and we took pictures in front of every single tourist attraction. Allison, looking back, maybe we should have reconsidered our choices in the character. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, it does not end well for them. But I'm happy to report we did far better in real life than our movie counterparts. So as you can see what I'm trying to get at, there is nothing that could be artificially generated that would do this class of 2023 justice. Because unlike that speech, they have heart, they have soul, and they deserve better. So while I can't promise a perfect speech, or one that's in 10 minutes, I'm sorry, Christy, I'm sorry, Mark, I tried. I'm gonna go a little over, but I'm gonna do my best. I can promise you a speech that is authentic and from the heart. The first time I ever spoke at any graduation was my own 6th grade graduation. And we had to write on a postcard from the future to our teacher. And mine wrote on it, "Dear Mrs. Brayer, I just won my 1,000th case. I'm an attorney and I love it because I get to help people who need it. I know what you must be thinking, wow, this girl knew what she wanted to do and she just really stayed the course." But that's simply not true. While I eventually did end up getting there, the process was not linear. And unfortunately, I didn't always stay true to that little 6th grader. I think when you're younger, there is a passion and drive that's pure because it has yet to be jaded by life's experiences. As we move through this life, we inevitably experience loss, rejection, failure, disappointment, and these things hurt us. So slowly, a second voice develops, one that wants to protect us from these experiences. This voice wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in your comfort zone. And it often does so by making you question your own potential or making you afraid of failing. At some point along the way, and I'm not quite sure when it was, this voice, the protector, took over for me. I became such a rule follower. I always had to do everything right. I wanted everyone's approval. And underneath that image of perfection I so desperately wanted to project to the world, there was a person who was very insecure, who always felt like she wasn't good enough, who always was afraid of failing or being rejected. And so I often took the safe road. I did become a lawyer, but instead of taking a chance and pursuing my passion, I played it safe and took a job at a real estate law firm. I was so unhappy, and my 6th grader was so disappointed. But every time she tried to say anything, the protector would shut her up. This is what it means to be an adult. This is the real world. And this internal dialogue continued until one day I received a phone call that would forever change the trajectory of my life. My friend had been arrested and had been thrown in a maximum security federal detention facility in New York City. He was being held without bail. His charge, violating the US sanctions against Iran. What he had actually done, received family money from Iran and used it to purchase his home in the United States. When I hung up that phone, something inside me knew I had to help him. It was this inexplicable pull. And for the first time, in as long as I can remember, it didn't matter what the protector said. I wasn't scared, and I was going to do what I knew that I had to do. That phone call had ignited a passion that amplified the voice of that 6th grader so much so that she could no longer be ignored. So then This voice grew stronger, and I felt more liberated. And this rule follower, this person who always did everything rational, did something totally crazy. I abandoned my life and bought a one-way ticket to New York. And so began my 22-month journey that took me from one federal detention facility to another, where I witnessed a heartbreaking trial that ended in a conviction, where I saw that even if you're on the right side of the law, justice does not always prevail. I wanted to give up so many times, but that sixth grader had finally found her voice, and she was not going anywhere. So after 22 months of fighting, we finally won on appeal. But my fight had just begun. While those 22 months were the hardest of my life, they were also an incredible period of growth for me. I had the opportunity to work alongside some of the greatest legal minds in the nation, and somewhere along the way, I became an expert in sanctions law. I so clearly saw that with approximately 2 million Iranian Americans, first and second generation, living in our country, given the ambiguities and complexities in these regulations, what happened to my friend could happen to anyone, and I was determined to do something about it. And that is how my practice was born. And I was finally doing what I was meant to do. I was helping people who needed it. And that never felt as rewarding as it did this past year, when the world watched as the fearless and brave women of Iran took to the streets, put their lives on the line, day in and day out, fighting for their very basic liberties. Many don't realize, but as Kimia did, when we sanction a country, we also hinder our ability to send their people aid. And my law firm has made it a priority to facilitate sending aid and humanitarian relief to not just Iran, but to all sanctioned countries. My experience in 2010 remains one of the most formative in my life. But about a decade later, that sixth grader got another itch. This time, it was a Hawaiian one. So I always knew I wanted to live on the island of Kauai. This island feeds and heals my soul in a way that I can't describe. But I always thought I have to wait till I retire, because obviously, who's gonna be able to move to Hawaii and have a life here on the mainland? And then the pandemic happened, and our world, along with our views regarding remote work, changed. I also turned 40 during the pandemic, and my little sister, Melody Yazdanyar, also a Viewpoint alumni, bought me a one-way ticket to Kauai. To this day, I don't know if she did it because she loved me or if she just wanted to get rid of me, but anyway, I'll take it. That was supposed to be a temporary move, but when I got there, I just knew I had to make this island a permanent part of my life. Why wait until you retire to make a dream come true? So I signed up for the Hawaii bar, and I studied, which, by the way, like everything else, gets a little bit more challenging with age, but I passed. And as of October 2022, I am a licensed attorney in the Hawaiian Islands, building a practice on the island of Kauai. Oh, thank you. You know, when Mark and I were talking, he's like, well, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna do it? I'm like, I honestly don't know. I don't have a clue, but I know I have to try, because after 43 years, I have finally learned to trust myself, to trust that voice. I have learned you don't always have to know exactly where the next step is going to take you. You just need to be brave enough to take that step. I share this second story with our graduates because I want you to know that I'm not standing here as someone who is speaking about my past, as someone who has done some abstract things that I'm done doing that I'm now asking you to do. I am standing here as someone who is still doing. I am still struggling with that inner dialogue. I still am afraid of failing. I still feel insecure about starting a new practice in a new state in an entirely new area of law almost 20 years after graduating law school. But you know what? I'm also still moving forward, because I would rather look back in 10 years and know that I tried and either failed or succeeded, rather than have that sixth grader forever wonder what could have been. I have to take this moment to thank Mark McKee, Viewpoint School, and the class of 2023 for allowing me to participate and be a part of this incredible, pivotal moment. I know traditionally it's the commencement speaker's job to come here and say something that inspires the graduating class, but after spending time with you, after reading your graduation statements, after feeling your collective energy, I have to admit it is you who has inspired me. This experience has given me a renewed sense of hope in our future because I know you will make it a brighter one. My ask of you is this: listen to your heart when shaping that future, and don't let it take you 30 or 40 years to learn to trust yourself. As you begin to build your life, find that balance between the two voices. The one that dared to dream big before you or the world began to put limits on it, and the one who wants to keep you safe. Listen to the protector, but never let that voice become so loud and so overwhelming that it makes you operate from a place of insecurity, fear, or self-doubt. Because I promise you this, as long as you stay true to yourself and to your purpose, there is nobody in this world except you who can stop you from living the life that you want. So regardless of whether you know what you want your next stage in life to look like, or whether you want to take the next few years to decide your direction, which, by the way, that's what it's for, so you shouldn't put pressure on yourself to know either way, each of you graduating from this school is equipped with the tools to shape, mold, and make your life and this world whatever you want it to be. So do it. Find that inner voice, listen to the driving force, and don't forget to pour your human elements like your heart, your soul, your passion, instinct, drive, love into every aspect of your life. Because if you do that, nothing artificial, not AI, any app, software, or technology could ever replace you. So go out there and build the life and world that you want. The world you will be proud to talk about in 25 years. Class of 2023, congratulations. I cannot wait to see the world that you create.
Thank you, Mehrnoush, for your inspiring words. Part of the school stated vision calls for a school where tradition connects us and innovation propels us. Your presence today reminds us of our traditions as we look forward to the innovation of our graduates that will propel us.